Well, it's a disease that can be tough to diagnose, but once it is, it's life-changing. Celiac Conference is Nicole Byram, a registered dietitian with Celiac Canada. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, first of all, in case anyone is wondering, what is celiac disease and what is it not?
So celiac disease is a genetically predisposed autoimmune disease where the protein gluten, which is found in barley, rye, regular oats, and wheat, damages the intestinal lining in the gut. And because of this, we can get short and long-term complications of this disease that are very serious. And, celiac disease has about 260 known symptoms. And none of these symptoms are unique to celiac disease, which means that the diagnosis is very difficult. So currently in Canada, we only have a diagnosis rate of about 15%, which means that 85% of people who have celiac disease don't even know they have it. So one of Celiac Canada's initiatives is to really drive that diagnosis. And we have actually a symptom checker on our website on Celiac Canada, so celiac.ca. And you can go to that website and take the symptom checklist and see if you should be screened.
Okay, and I was going to ask you about that. It is very misunderstood and underdiagnosed. When people go to their doctor, what should they be saying if they think it might be gluten-related?
So they should say, I think this might be gluten-related. Do you mind screening me for celiac disease? Because of those 260 symptoms, people will come to me as a dietitian and say, I've been diagnosed with IBS. And I'll say, have you been screened for celiac disease? And they'll say, well, no, I haven't. And I said, we need to start there. And then we can find out, because if it is celiac disease, we can treat it. And if it's not, well, then let's go forward from here.
And to start, that diagnosis is relatively simple. It's a blood draw.
Yeah. So the first step in celiac diagnosis is a screen, which is the IgA-TTG, which is the tissue transglutaminase. And it's a simple blood test. And then if your numbers are high, from there we go on. If you're a child, there's a non-biopsy approach we can do now here in Canada. And for adults, you would have an intestinal biopsy, which isn't as scary as it sounds. And then we can go on to diagnosis. And it is very important that we do achieve a proper diagnosis. And as part of that screening, I did want to add that you have to be on a gluten-containing diet in order for it to be a true reading. If you're on a gluten-free diet and you get that test done, we could have a false negative.
Sure. Yeah, because you're getting rid of the contaminants, if you will. The problem is being done. Okay. How about nutrition surrounding celiac?
So, one of the primary nutrient malabsorptions is iron that we see presented. 68% of those newly diagnosed with celiac disease are iron deficient. So if you have an iron deficiency that isn't improving with supplementation, get screened for celiac disease, because that is definitely, because remember, the intestinal damage prevents a lot of absorption from our nutrients because of that atrophy.
Okay. Now, the national conference is taking place next weekend.
Yes.
What will you discuss?
Yeah, so November 18th, 12 o'clock to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay. It's a virtual conference, so accessible to all Canadians. It is free, which is fabulous. Sign-ups on our website, Celiac Canada, celiac.ca. And we've got people from around the world coming to speak. We've got Dr. Nigel Hogard coming from the University of Sheffield, talking about neurological complications in celiac disease. Dr. Licio Fasano coming from Massachusetts General. He's a pediatric gastroenterologist speaking kind of on the latest research. We've got Dr. Ann Lee coming to speak about the relationship, if any, between gluten intolerance and the low FODMAP diet, which is really exciting.
Okay, lots to take in there, and maybe clear up some questions for some people.
Exactly. So, and they can ask questions live as we're going, so it's very interactive. So I really encourage people to join us.
Thank you so much, Nicole Byram with Celiac Canada.
Thanks so much for having me.
Celiac.ca.
Yes.
All right, if you'd like to register and find out some more.